All right, Kevin, I've got everyone muted but you. I'm just going to get started on the formal stuff at the beginning, and then we can just kind of get rolling, and people can jump in as they come.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Rob Schrufer. I am the current president of the IDA, and I am today's moderator for Kevin's presentation. Tonight we are doing keeping your head above water in today's internet environment. Kevin Davis of Detailer's Helper is the presenter, and we are going to do this a little different than what we normally do, and we're going to sort of make it more conversation. So we're going to kind of talk back and forth about topics and stuff like that, and if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them in the box. I keep everyone muted simply because of the background noise. But if you type them in the box, I'll be monitoring that while we're talking, and I'll break in with any questions or unmute you to clarify. For everyone's, for the future, we do this every third Thursday of the month. It's free for IDA members, and we alternate back and forth between a technical and a business-related one. This month is more of a business-related one on keeping your website and everything, and how to manage the internet. So if you are a certified detailer, this counts as a credit hour to maintain your continuing education for maintaining your certification. So make sure you fill out the form at the end to get the credit hours. If you're not a member, I think most people here are, but if you're not, this is one of the benefits. Like I said, we do this every month. You can get these webinars. There's a lot of them. We've been doing them for 2 years. They're good. Also, if you like these, you can go back and listen to any of the previous ones we've done in the past. They're all on the website if you log in through your personalized login. Like I said before, I will keep an eye on the chat box, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to type them in, and I will ask. We'll also leave a little time at the end for just a little Q&A to go back and forth with Kevin. Okay, so Kevin, if you are ready, I am going to turn this over to you. You ready?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Should have a button. Show my screen. There we go.
You should be able to show it now.
Yeah, there we go. All right, so this is my fancy title. Basically, I didn't know what to call it. We're going to talk about several topics on internet stuff, basically some basic web stuff, Facebook, AdWords, search engine optimization. If you've watched my videos and stuff on YouTube or asked me questions, some of the stuff will be repetitive. There'll be a few little nuggets here that you've heard me say over and over, but I think they beg repeating. So I guess for Rob and I, you know, we can sort of just go through some of these slides. I'll go through each slide maybe, and then we can sort of, or interrupt me, stop me when you want, and then we can sort of do back and forth. I used to do corporate training, and so it was 15 years ago, 18 years ago. I have not done a PowerPoint presentation in a while, so forgive me if if it's a little rusty, so to speak. So if you don't know who I am, basically I run Detailer's Helper, which is a physical product company, but my background for about the last 17, 18 years is I have run a web development, app development, software development company, and I spend my days doing Facebook, social media marketing, web development, app development, and marketing, and that kind of stuff. So that sort of gives you a little bit about my background if you're wondering why some detailer guy is talking about this stuff. So I run several companies, a detailer company, this physical product, and then the web development. So I guess we can get started. So Rob, just feel free to interrupt me anytime. So basically, first step, let's start at the beginning. Yes, you need a website of some sort, and a lot of guys say that they don't. And if you're fully booked for 6 months out and you don't want any new business, then you can disregard that. But if you have that situation, you're probably not on this call anyway, so we won't worry too much about you. So to survive, you must have an easy-to-use, mobile-friendly website. And we'll talk about mobile-friendly stuff. Basically, as of April 21st, Google and the other search engines started doing this thing where their bots will check your mobile friendliness on your website, and if you are not mobile friendly, they're effectively disallowing your website in mobile search results. When I run my analytics on my own website, Detailing Web, Detailer's Helper, we're running a little higher than the average. I'm running about 60% of most of my visitors come on mobile devices. So the average is about 50%. So if you're not mobile friendly, then you're basically just throwing half of your available customers out the window. If you happen to run something like WordPress, Squarespace, Weebly, or those kind of canned websites that are what they call mobile responsive or responsive design, they sort of do that stuff for you automatically, and so you don't have to worry about the mobile friendly as much. But if your website was built probably a couple of years ago, even as little as like 18 months, and it's built by hand by some web guy that you hired, and it's not built on something like WordPress, chances are your site is at minimum not, or at max not mobile friendly at all, and at minimum it does have some mobile issues. Easy way to check to see if you're mobile friendly is you just Google for mobile friendly readiness check in Google, and you'll come up with a little thing that you put your URL in, and it will tell you for sure whether you're mobile friendly. But essentially, if you go to your website on your phone and you have to scroll back and forth, or if everything's not automatically formatted, you're not mobile friendly. So that's the mobile friendly thing. You want to look for clean, modern designs. Web design trends change about every couple of years, 2 to 3 years. And if you're not keeping up with those trends, your customers will notice. It's, sort of like looking at a difference between a Tesla and a 88 Chevette, and so you've been to those websites that are you just feel dated instantly. So you want to make sure they're clean and easy to read. I'm breaking my own rule here by using black slides with white text. I've said a long time that I will start building all my websites with this kind of formatting as soon as they start printing books this way. So in general, you want to make sure everything's easy to read, the text is easy to read, because you never know whether you've got, an 18-year-old or 80-year-old reading your pages. So in general, dark colored text with light backgrounds are best, at least for the text area. You can play with the design, your designers can play with the design to make things look better. So the other thing that I make sure I remind people of is use images that reflect the customer you want to attract. And we can talk more about sort of your ideal customer later, but I see the tendency in all these detailers that throw up pictures of Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Teslas, whatever, and none of those cars exist within 100 miles of their shop, and only probably 0.001% of their potential customers drive those. So there's no reason to put those on your website. If you do those regularly and that's your market and you want to attract high-end exotic customers, go for it. But if 90% of your customers are driving minivans and they're soccer moms, use something that's a little bit family-friendly. Obviously, you're not going to put up a 2000 Sienna on your header on your website. That's just going to look goofy. So, but use the types of cars when you're telling your designer what to use, or if you're doing it to yourself. Use stock images that in general reflect the types of vehicles that you're working on, the types of vehicles that your potential customers are going to drive. So
I think that's something that all of us as detailers are guilty of. The 1 a year Ferrari that you do get if you're a little shop. You can't help but take some pictures and put it up on the website simply because you're proud of what it is and that you did it. So I think that that's important. That you can put those up there, but you got to think about the amount of Ferraris or Lamborghinis that you actually do in a year, and if you're are you aiming at those customers, or is your bread and butter Toyota Camrys, and that's where you make your money. Those don't make as great of pictures, but that's your potential audience. Those are the people you need to talk to.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, and I'm not discouraging people from actually, I mean, if you have a portfolio, which you should, and you've got 50/50 and you want to just show your general work, nothing wrong with doing that. Well, I'm talking really more about the branding aspect of your site, because, you sort of have a style that people will respond to, and so that's more of the stuff. But yeah, thanks for clarifying that. I'm not suggesting that you just completely don't put those things up there at all. So I've been talking a lot about these online schedulers with different people, and this is something that can work really well, but it has to be set up correctly, and it has to actually fit your market and your business well. On my detailing site, I use, and I know of a few other guys that use Snap Appointments, which basically allows me to, I do mobile and in shop. So I could actually go into Snap Appointments and create specific entries for whether it's you want mobile or you want in shop. Then I would gather all the information I wanted to gather, make, model, condition, services you're looking to get, all of that stuff. And I'm not suggesting, and some people get confused about this, that this is some automated scheduling system that people click a few buttons and then show up at your shop. This is an automated way. It's basically a lead generating, beyond leads, but basically it's an appointment generating system by which they provide the information. They say that they're 100% ready to book. You use that information to call them, confirm the appointment, confirm the details, confirm the pricing, and then obviously give them the caveat of, it's conditional upon seeing the vehicle, blah, blah, blah. So if you're running a website, Snap Appointments can be obtained for free. They have some free stuff where it's really cheap. It's like $20 a month, $25 a month. So.
And wouldn't you say a lot of people also have this as just their contact form under the Contact Us, where they can gather all this type of information too?
Yeah, they can. Yeah, you can use just a generic contact form that will grab whatever data you want to grab from the customer to allow them to sort of generate that lead form too. The thing that I like about the Snap Appointments is you can actually use it as your booking system too. Or you can, at the very least, keep it synced up so that people can see, all right, well, I have, I want to do Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And when I go in to try to make that appointment, Saturdays are either booked or this detailer is not available on Saturday or whatever. So you can disqualify people that might waste your time with a call, or you can book people that may be a little bit, they're just investigating a little bit and actually want to commit. The thing I like about the appointment thing is because it's an extra level of commitment from them versus just the contact form. But like I said, it does take a little bit of planning and playing with it to make sure that it's set up correctly, because you don't want just free for all people making appointments for hours at a time, and you have to know your business pretty well too to say, okay, well, this deluxe interior process takes X number of hours on your average car so that you can put in that length of time for that appointment so it doesn't allow them to eat up too much time or too little time. So, I know there are detailers out there doing this effectively. It just takes a little bit of playing, and it's not for everybody. Oops, my screen just disappeared. Let me go back. Sorry about that. All right, so let's talk about alternatives to full websites. So there's lots of different options, which we've talked about before in some of my stuff. Squarespace, Weebly, WordPress.com. Those are sort of more plug and play, get in, pay a $19 a month fee, and you have sort of all the stuff you need for a basic website. A couple of issues I've always had with those kind of things is that A, they own the content, and B, you have very little control over what you can do. So if you want to add an online shop or something like that, then you have to look for another solution, like Shopify or whatever, if you happen to do products as well as services. Facebook, if for some reason you are just getting started, budgets are tight, whatever, Facebook can actually be a very good substitute for a website if you want to do that. It can be a great destination page. You can put your Facebook address right on your business cards, in your marketing, all that stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. You just want to make sure that you use it, you treat it as that. You treat it as the destination for your potential customers. I reiterate this every time I have an opportunity, but you must set up your Facebook page as a business page. If I have to friend you as a business, then you're doing it wrong, period. And every single day I get friended, or I have suggestions for friends. I mean, detailers and all artisans are terrible at this. There are so many guys that are still using their personal page as a business page. So what's happening, just as a side note to that, is Facebook's figuring this out, and they're basically just deleting those pages completely. So you will come in one morning, try to go into your Facebook, and your account no longer exists. So if you've spent the last 2 years building clientele, you put pictures, you've done all that stuff, it's just going to be gone. So if you're listening to this and you haven't heard me bitch about it before, I'm doing it now. So just convert that over to a business page. It gives you lots of other options. I know you have to pay for ads, pay for placements, and all that stuff, but we'll talk about if you're running a business, then run a business. So I don't know if you want to comment on that, Rob, but that's sort of my...
Yeah, and I like Kevin, I see this all the time, especially with new detailers. But what's important, guys, is that you present yourself as a business. I don't want, if you're Joe the Detailer Smith, and that's the name of your thing, it doesn't look professional. I will just move right along. I'll just assume you're not a professional company. And then along with that too, if you're using your business as your Facebook page, you have to watch what you put in there. Religion, politics, partying, all that stuff cannot be on your Facebook page. You don't want to alienate or eliminate any possible clients who take one look at what you've posted and move along. You can do that on your personal page, but your business page is not for that at all. And if they're tied together, if I log in and see something that I totally don't agree with based on your beliefs or whatever, I'll just move along. I won't even stop there. So it's very important to have those separated.
Yeah, and you actually just made my next bullet point, which is don't post controversial stuff on Facebook. And one thing to remember too is pretty much everything that you post on Facebook is public knowledge. I mean, or is out there and can be public. If people share your stuff, people can download your pictures. If you're in business, I just contend that you should just treat everything you post on Facebook that every one of your clients could see it. So I think that's a good rule of thumb, and it will keep you in business and keep you out of jail. But basically what I said in my thing is that most customers could give a crap what you think about immigration and politics and all that stuff. And if they do, then they're probably going to be polarized to one side or the other. So just, don't worry about that. I just leave that stuff off. I would personally not even do it from my personal page. I'm pretty careful about what I post because I have a ton of detailers on my personal page. I don't have a separate private, Facebook page. And so I try to be real sensitive to that stuff anyway. But just like Rob was saying, just be professional, make sure that you do that, and especially from your business page, because as a business page you can like other business pages. So if you're targeting a bunch of, again, I like to use the soccer mom thing, but if you're targeting a bunch of soccer moms and they happen to go to your likes and it's a bunch of bikini models and hot rod bikinis and mud wrestling or whatever it is, that's gonna give them an opinion about you and your business, and it just doesn't, it just doesn't work. So just assume that anything you post on Facebook, every one of your clients can see, and if you use sort of that rule of thumb, it will help you stay out of trouble. Let's see, create engaging. The other thing you want to do with your Facebook page is create engaging Facebook content. So basically posting relevant information. I'll just sort of read through this. Relevant information, pictures, business items to keep people interested and engaged with your brand. If you guys follow Detailer Helper on Facebook, you'll see that I'm posting, not only my videos, but if I see special things that people are doing, if I see podcasts that are interesting, that kind of stuff. And that's how I continue to keep my customers engaged with my brand. The same thing works for detailers where you're posting. I mean, it can be anything from, wash tips to dangers of car wash to, how to promoting other related businesses like windshield repair and PDR and all that, depending on if that's part of your services or not, and that kind of thing. And the same thing, again, use 50/50s that makes sense to your customers. If your customers don't understand what a 50/50 of swirl paint versus clean paint is, which a lot of people don't, then that's completely invalid. That doesn't have any value to them. However, if you split a dirty back seat of a 2003 Suburban that's had kids in it for 10 years, if you clean half of it and then take a picture of it, they will completely understand that. So, use relevant content, think like your customer, post stuff for that. People always ask how often. I would say at least 3 times a week, just to do that, because Facebook's, without boosting them, Facebook's only going to show a percentage of your customers your stuff anyway. So if you're posting every day, that's probably fine. I'd say 3 times a week is probably minimum. At least a couple times a week, at least to get, make sure people know that you're alive and your business is thriving and all that stuff. So every few days. If you're an Instagram user, it's really easy to connect your Instagram to your Facebook page. So you can do that too, and that way when you post your Instagram, it just automatically gets up there. So, all right, Rob, do you have anything else on like that kind of stuff, the just generalized website stuff?
No. Just real quick, going back to just the website and keeping it up to date and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys have ever used like the Wayback Machine or anything like that, where you can actually put in your URL and see how your website has changed and stayed up. Every once in a while, I like to go back and see what my original website looked like 11 years ago and kind of laugh at how terrible and silly it looked and how far it's come now. So I use that as like a marker for how often I need to change it. If it's been a few years and I notice that it hasn't changed, I update some things and change it up just to keep the content fresh and relevant. And, people who come back to your site multiple times aren't always looking at the same exact stuff.
Yeah, and it's not a lot of people think of, I build a website and it's there forever. Well, people think of detailing the same way. I detail it once and it's good. And you have to think about marketing and especially website development is part of your ongoing cost. You really should most likely be budgeting, if you spend $2,000 on your website today, then split that up into 24 months, put back $190 or whatever that is every month towards your savings account for your next website. So about every 2 years, if I look at my own websites, I've redesigned them probably, 10 times, and I have clients where we basically do them every 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, depending on the industry. So yeah, it's not unheard of to do it every 2 to 3 years because I think that keeps everything fresh and it keeps your business looking fresh.
I think you also touched on something important about the cost of a good website. I see people that are like, GoDaddy does it for free, but there's a definite difference between a GoDaddy site and a site that costs a couple $1,000. It's right. Set up more professionally. It's got everything it needs. It might seem like a lot of money to a small detailer, but it's worth every penny of it to get a solid, well-built, well-designed website.
Absolutely, yeah. And I always laugh. I've said this before, but I laugh because as detailers, we're constantly complaining about the full detail guy at $30 down the street, and then we want the same thing from other services. We don't place the same value on other services that we do on our own. And so I would encourage everybody out there to think of your web guy as the same way that you think of your own services. You get what you pay for. And so that money a well-designed site will convert leads way better. And so it doesn't, if you spend $2,000 on it and you book 25 full details or 25 coding jobs this year from that well-designed site due to the conversion rate, you've paid for it 10 times over. So, it doesn't, that works out really well. So that's a good point, Rob.
Does anybody have any questions before we move on to the next section? No, I don't see any, so I guess we'll keep going.
No, we're good. All right. I can't see the chat box because I've maximized on my PPT.
Oh, that's okay. I'll keep an eye on it. It's open on mine.
All right, cool. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about search engine optimization, and this is a topic that can easily get out of control, so we'll try to keep it as straightforward as we possibly can. So basically, if you look at a few years ago, it was really easy to get top 10 positioning on Google. And by really easy, I mean technically really easy. Obviously, there's competition factors, algorithms, all that stuff. But effectively, web guys like me, we put a bunch of keywords in, we put the meta tag description and keywords and all that, and then all of a sudden, magically, Google gave us better placement. We could hide keywords in white text on white backgrounds, all these little tricks that used to be used that are, marginally ethical. So it's probably good that they didn't go away. So now Google, to our benefit as the web user, Google and their robots have gotten way better at indexing and looking at websites. So think of the Google bot as basically looking at it the same way that a human would look at it. They want good, relevant, easy-to-access content. So they see web pages basically the same way we do, which means that you have to design, your site has to be designed in that same way. So it has to be engaging. So here's just some questions to ask yourself when you're looking at your website. Is it easy to use? Does it have relevant content that people are searching for relative to your business? Does it work on mobile devices, which we already talked about? And do other parts of the web agree it's interesting and has merit? That means that is your website, do you have it in some directories? Do you have other people that are posting on it about social media? Do people engage with your Facebook page, which then links to your website? That kind of thing. So that's that kind of incoming stuff has some value. So let's see. So that's basically, like I said, I'm just going to go over it pretty quickly. Sorry, screwing my stuff up. So, so that's sort of the basics of search engine optimization. But let's talk about paying for it, which you probably, if you have a website and it's on and has your phone number on it or email on it, you probably get calls all the time about people telling you and emails telling you that they can get you on the top 10 placement, they can get you on the page 1 of Google. That kind of stuff. A good answer for those guys, by the way, on a side note, is to ask them for their business name, so that I can check to make sure that they're on the first page of Google, for their business, which typically makes them hang up. So that's a good question to ask those guys. But so should you pay for search engine optimization SEO? So for the most part, if your developer is doing a good job and your site is set up correctly, you should not need to do that. So it's basically your keywords that are on your site, your keyword density, good content, your basic technical tags. All that stuff still has to be there. It's just not the end-all, be-all of search engine optimization anymore. In most cases, especially for small businesses, it's going to be a waste of your money to spend money in particular on a company that does specific search engine optimization. There are companies out there that do SEO as a component of your overall branding, marketing, and advertising strategy, which is fine. I'm working with a company now that's doing some marketing automation for me, helping me to drive conversions, helping me to drive customers, customer engagement, all that stuff. That SEO is part of that component. And so there's nothing wrong with doing that. So I would say for most small businesses, paying for search engine optimization is just a waste of money. So
just to jump in there,
about that before.
Two real quick, Kevin. Guys, link building, as Kevin touched on before, is pretty much dead. You know, when a few years ago, like hiding text in there, you could pay a company to go and build 10,000 backlinks to your website, which was good. But when Google did their updates last year, they hit everyone hard with penalties for that. I mean, my website got put in the penalty box. Like, I had to pay someone to remove backlinks for me and then go back to Google and fill out a report telling them what I'd removed and why, for them to reevaluate my site and take me out of the penalty box. And I mean, I'm a big company, and that really hurt my business. I saw a noticeable decline in my business because they dropped me from page 1 to page 30 until I got out of the penalty box.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So the net is, you know, really for search engine stuff, when you talk to your developer, just make sure that they follow best practices on the overall keyword strategies and setup of your pages and all that stuff. And if you're using a WordPress site, which a lot of guys are doing, which I actually use for most of my sites now, it's really easy to build that in with plugin stuff. And it's even stuff that you can, you know, if you don't want to pay your developer to sit and do it, you can do it page by page on your own, and they can help you set that up. So I know that we didn't, you know, like I said, you can get really in-depth into optimization stuff, and we didn't. So I don't know if there's any questions on that before we move on to some just basic web advertising stuff.
Does anybody have any question about SEO type things? Nope, still nothing.
All right, moving right along. All right, so let's talk about some basic web advertising. And, you know, we're not going to talk about doing banner ads on local, you know, sites and local newspapers and television advertising and all that stuff. So let's just talk about really two choices, AdWords and Facebook. And my contention is that most businesses should be utilizing both with a budget split that's determined through testing, marketing and I should say your market and data. So what that means is the way that you spend your budget between those two things, the way you split your budget should be related to how effective one is over the other for your given market. And the only way to do that is to test it and to spend money and to do different ads and all that stuff. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I'm typically right now spending more money on Facebook and less money on AdWords. But for detailers in particular, especially because we typically only have a small area that we're working with, you know, you're only drawing your customers for a certain radius of mileage from either your service area as a mobile detailer or miles from your shop. That allows you to be very targeted geographically and keywords, even down to neighborhoods. And so we'll talk more about that. So let's talk about AdWords. So AdWords, if you don't know what AdWords are, basically they're Google sponsored ads that appear above or to the side of normal search results. So when you do a search for, you know, Bozeman detailing, your sponsored ads show up at the very top, sometimes on the side, depending on your phone, you know, where it's positioned. But it's effectively paying for higher positioning and visibility through a sponsored Google search result. And so that's what those AdWords are. Sort of some highlights of AdWords is that they can be expensive. Their click-through rates are fairly low, which means your click-through your cost per click can be pretty high, depending on what your market is, what the competition is, and all that. You're limited to text ads only, so you can't do anything that's really all that engaging for your customers, I found. It requires a good bit of research to ensure proper positive and negative keywords that are being used, which means if I live in LA, and I want to have Los Angeles County as my search engine keyword, but I don't want to go to Watts or Compton or some of these other areas. If I don't want those to show up, then those would be considered negative keywords. And so you can actually disqualify results based on that. And so positive keywords are obviously the ones you want to do. So if you want to, Beverly Hills or whatever you want to do. So that's how that works. But it requires quite a bit of research to know what keywords to use in order to maximize the click-through rate for your given market.
I do want to say there that
go ahead.
I do want to say that Google will help you with those things. I've actually had Google call me a couple times, and I pay someone to do my AdWords, but Google calls me every 6 months or so, and we do a little walkthrough audit of my AdWords account. It's free, and if you call AdWords and talk to them, they will help you with some of this stuff. They'll teach you how to do negative keywords, and they'll teach you how to do geographic marketing and stuff like that. If you can't afford someone to monitor it for you, they'll teach you that. Obviously, you have to take, they're in business to make money, so you kind of have to watch what they're selling you all the time, but they will teach you the ins and outs of how to properly use AdWords. And like I said, I pay someone to do it, but at the same time, I also really like to know what I'm paying someone to do. So if there's something I want, I know how to articulate that to them, and also to make sure they're staying on top of the new things that AdWords is coming out with all the time.
Right, and that's actually, I should probably include that as a bullet point, because the customer service that you get from AdWords is quite a bit better right now than it is from Facebook. Facebook uses a little bit more automated stuff. So having you actually, when you sign up for your account, you're technically assigned an AdWords account executive that will call you or email you or whatever. And like Rob said, it can be really helpful. They can walk through that. Plus, the system itself will continually look for better performing keywords that are related to your keywords, and they'll suggest those along the way. If you're doing AdWords and they suggest, they'll say, oh, well, you have 115 keywords that you're missing. Well, you don't want to just go select all of those because they're not all relevant, and then that just actually drives more budget, and you can spend a lot of money. So speaking of that, you basically set a budget to say, I want to spend X number of dollars per day, so you can get to your max budget for the month. And what happens is if that's $5 and your click-through rate, your cost per click is $1, then you basically get 5 clicks before your ad just stops showing, which is nice and automated and easy to sort of set that out. And so they do that automatically for you. You just tell it how much you want to spend, and they make that happen. So you can do some demographic targeting within that. It gets a little bit more complicated when you're doing that. It's not quite as advanced as some of the other stuff we'll talk about with Facebook, but and it works well within localized keywords. So for me in particular, I live sort of in a suburb of a medium-sized town, and so I can use very localized keywords to attract people that are more on this side of town than on the other side of that town. So especially if you live in a metropolitan area, that can be super important. You can even use keywords that are down to specific large developments, subdevelopments, subdivisions, neighborhoods, that kind of stuff too, so that makes it easy. And it's pretty easy to use. I mean, from a very basic setup standpoint, it's not hard to do. You set up some ads and you pull the trigger and you let them run and see how they do. So they're not all that difficult to use. So that's AdWords. Let's talk about Facebook. Facebook is sort of the next step up visually, especially from AdWords. It's just a completely different setup. And it's a variety of types of ads that can be. There's a variety of types of ads that can be run on Facebook, from main page newsfeed ads to boosted posts to web click ads. So if you're running a business page and then you always see that boost post button, which I actually don't recommend using that much because it's not all that effective. I also don't recommend anyone actually pays for, to try to advertise to get page likes. That's not all that effective. but you can use video. They have a setup now that you can do. You can do where you have a carousel of images. You can do up to 5 images per thing. So those 50-50 ads or whatever will show multiple photos per ad, and it just shows up in your targeted customers' news feed, basically. You may have seen, we're doing a Detailer's Helper contest right now to give away a belt, and I'm running an ad for that contest. So you guys, some of you guys may have seen that within your feed. You may have not, but that's an like an example of how that works. So typically speaking, what I've found is that the click-through, that should be CPC, the cost per click, not CTR, which is click-through rate. The CPC is cheaper than AdWords as a whole. It sort of depends on what keywords you're using. There's a ton of options, like we said. You can do video ads, actually. You can do text. You can do images. You can do the carousel, which typically speaking, from my experience and my data, shows higher conversion rates. So more people, not that people click more on them, but more people actually convert to real customers as a result of those types of ads. So not only they click on it, but they also convert better. You can make it extremely targeted. So like I could put on there I can even put my competitors' liked pages. So I can put that I want to target people that like Joe's Detailing, which is 5 miles away from me, but they don't like this detailer on their page, or they don't engage with them. You can put ages, you can put income levels, you can put political affiliation. I mean, you can put pretty much down to the very specific person. The one issue is that if the more specific you get, the more targeted you are, and the less people will see your ads, and so you have to be a little bit careful with that. It's really easy. Go ahead.
I do have a question from Eric. Eric, I'm just going to kind of reword this a little bit. How do you get a good return on a boosted post? You know, like how do you go about getting the most out of boosting your posts or ads?
First of all, I'm not a huge fan of boosting posts because it makes it really easy. So if you have some time constraints, then that's probably the easiest way to advertise on Facebook. So, but it would have to be something specific. So and well written. There's a lot of detailers I see out there that are running business pages, and their posts are they look like a third grader wrote them. And so that does not attract the type of customer that you want to attract. So
I think that's very important too. I can't stand bad grammar or no punctuation or no use of capital letters. Like I just look at that and go, "You're an idiot."
Yeah, and the customers will feel the same way. And so that's definitely not the kind of post that you want to do. But let me give you a good example of a boosted post. So like you post, go back to our backseat of the Suburban. You've got a 50-50 gray picture. You post that photo and you say, complete conversion on this 2003 Suburban that's seen, 5 years of kids back and forth to soccer, all of that stuff. And then, you put a second line and say, we can do the same for your car. You put contact information, you put some sort of call to action, and then you can boost that post. The problem with that versus I can actually do that same ad, I can post that same picture, I can actually add some text over that picture in something like PicMonkey or Canva or one of the freebie things. I can add a call to action to it and actually create a real ad without much more time and have that convert way better than doing the boosted post. It's one of those things where it might be good to at least start out by taking good, well-written posts and boosting them to get a handle on it and see what's out there. And then from there, you can go back and start doing actual real ads. And I'll tell you in just a second, there's a thing called Power Editor that we'll talk about. So we talked about the targeting. It's pretty easy to use. And then the one thing you want to do is with that same ad, one thing that's nice about doing that instead of doing just boosting your post, if you do an actual ad, you can actually create several different ads with different text just to see which one performs better, and then you can, go with that one and continue to run that. In Chrome, in the browser, Google Chrome has a browser, and if you search for Facebook Ads Power Manager, they have a really easy to use way to create ads very quickly. You basically upload them and download them and all that stuff. And so without getting into too much detail, my suggestion is to use that instead of Ad Manager from within Facebook, just because it's a little bit easier and you can have some more targeted stuff. If you go to Google, if you go to YouTube, basically, like I've said in other videos, I can't teach you, I'm not in the business of teaching you how to do specific Facebook ads. There's several places to do it. YouTube, there are tons of videos. You just want to search to say, how do I create a basic Facebook ad for my business that converts, or something like that. There's a online repository of curriculum called Udemy, which is UDEMY, and you can buy courses on there between 10 and $100, depending on what you want to spend. You can go to Vimeo, Vimeo, and there are a ton of courses on there. I actually did a Facebook 101 course with a girl that does this all day long, and she's really good at it, and that taught me a lot of tricks and tips on how to get things to convert. So the point being is that if you're going to use Facebook, go out and search Google for some tutorials, and then just go step by step. Start small, set your budget at a couple of bucks a day or something like that, and then just start playing with it, and you'll get better at it. Or we'll talk more about paying people to do that for you. So let's look here. All right, so social media. So any more questions? I know that we're sort of flying through this stuff, or more or less it's 55 minutes in. So do we have any questions on that before we talk a little bit about social media management?
Nothing's up.
Okay, so let's talk about we already did that, so let's talk about social media management. All right, so basically we've got, first step is to pick the right platform. Let's just talk about how to use social media for your business as a detailer, okay? So first step is you want to pick the right platform, which means where are the people that you want to target hanging out most, and maybe just pick 2 or 3 of those and focus your energy on that, because it can be a complete pain in the butt to manage all of your social media accounts. I mean, I have, with running multiple businesses, I have 5 Instagram accounts and 3 Facebook pages, 5, all that crap. So even for a basic detailer who has a personal Facebook page, business Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, all of those kind of things, Google Plus, it can be a pain. So you might want to just pick a few and really concentrate on that. But really figure out where your people are going to be. One example I gave is if you are targeting women in particular, and this isn't a sexist statement, this is just a matter of fact, like 95% of the people that use Pinterest are women. And so you have an opportunity to share your pictures on Pinterest and draw in some of those people, and so that can work. I mean, even doing weird stuff like uploading pictures of Father's Day specials and that kind of stuff that women might be looking for, and it might get picked up by Google as a Pinterest post. So that's an example of why you would use Pinterest. Facebook's a given; everybody uses it, and you can really drive a lot of business with Facebook. We've already talked about the ads and just good practices there. Instagram is good. I think I would not encourage anybody to use Instagram without it sort of being connected or using it as a component of a way to post to Facebook. Because most of what I've experienced, and Rob, you might have seen this too, is that the only people following you on Instagram as a detailer are other detailers.
I completely agree with that.
So that doesn't do you a lot of good in terms of drawing in new business. If you're, the one caveat to that statement is if you know how to use hashtags, you can actually get some traction there with the general public by using hashtags correctly, and that's a whole other subject. But my suggestion is use Instagram to drive content to Facebook easily. As a detailer, that's probably the easiest way to do it. Google Plus is going to be tied in with YouTube, and so it does have some value with your search engine positioning. I honestly don't know how long Google Plus is going to stay around. I'm sure Google will get rid of it eventually because no one uses it. But it's like the redheaded stepchild of Facebook. So YouTube is very good for Google's ranking because it's tied into Google Plus. Everything's tied together since Google owns YouTube. Doing before and after videos instead of doing before and after pictures or as an additional step works really well. So, but remember, it's time consuming. If you're really good with your phone and know how to use your apps on your phone, it can be really easy. So, my point was just, make a decision on the time versus value and how many people you're going to draw in there. But I'm surprised at how much traction you can get from video on YouTube. So that works well. Twitter still utilized, but I really don't see a lot of traction from Twitter, so I don't recommend it that much. LinkedIn is mostly business to business, B2B. So if your market and your business model is pretty targeted to other businesses, corporate clients, parking garages, that kind of stuff, then that would at the very least be a way for you to find other people. So having a LinkedIn profile that's well filled out and all that would be good so that you could see how that plays out. So, and then Periscope is a whole new thing. I just put that in just because it just came out, and we did a Periscope feed the other day. So that's basically a live video feed, and so I don't really see a lot of benefit to that for most detailers. So keeping up with it all. So basically, you can either do it manually, which means you just post individual posts, or you can use stuff like Hootsuite or Sprout Social and actually schedule your posts. Again, that's a whole other discussion. And Instagram doesn't really get supported by that, so you pretty much have to do that manually. Or you hire somebody to manage your social media for you, which I actually don't like very much because it doesn't give my customers my voice, and it just depends on the balance between how good you are at technology, what you can post, how easy it is for you to feed those social media, and your budget, more than anything. So, all right, so that's sort of the quick and dirty on the social media, and I think we're sort of running out of time, aren't we, Rob? So I want to make sure we catch everything.
Yeah. Let's keep moving along.
All right, keep moving along. So basically, paying someone to do this stuff for you is an option. And for most small business owners, the complexity of all this crap is going to just is not going to be in your wheelhouse. I mean, there are some guys that have more of a technical savvy than others that happen to be detailers, myself included. And if you're able to do that, then that's great. You can save some money. But the way I see it is, would you be better off spending that money on to pay someone to do that so you can actually go do more detailing? And my example is if you can bill out at $75 an hour and pay someone $20 an hour to do your social media stuff, you're still netting $55 an hour to do that. So that's important. Let's see, it's not cheap. Even at $20 an hour, that stuff can add up pretty quickly. I mean, you could easily drop $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month on someone managing your social media stuff. So keep that in mind. But it can be totally worth it in terms of having, like Rob said, he has someone manage his social media or his AdWords stuff, which for him is cost effective, I'm sure. And the way that I put it is if you get into this thing where it's sort of an evergreen system, it becomes a money machine. So if I put $1 in on advertising and I get $2 worth of business out of every dollar, then hell, I'll do that all day long. I'll spend $1 million a month. Obviously, if you're a detailer, you can't do $1 million a month worth of business. But point is that it makes sense to spend as much as you can with the ROI and within your capacity to do the work. So that's sort of the highlight with that. And so that's basically paying someone to do it for you. And then I just wanted to open up to questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Kevin? While we wait for questions, Kevin, do you want to take a second to plug?
Yeah, let's just talk about detailer helper. So basically, my brand is one that focuses on efficiency-based products. Currently, we if you're aware of the business that we do, it's the tool belt stuff, and which is a product, that tool belt designed to save time on every detail. We're working on a couple of new versions of that, plus some other products that are coming out in the next few months. And so if you want to learn more about that, it's detailershelper.com. So that's my sort of plug for that product.
Yeah, everyone, you're starting to see this everywhere. It's starting to really blow up and get out there. So it's a useful tool for the people who detail every day. We're
pretty excited, especially if you do RVs and boats. I mean, I detail all the time. We sanded that car for 3 days straight on Saturday, or, all this last weekend. I used it constantly. So the example I give to people is, you don't see construction workers out walking on a job site with a handful of nails and a hammer. I don't know why we do that as detailers. And so if you haven't checked it out, I'd really encourage you to do it. We've shown, it definitely saves you time. So, but we have any questions going on?
I haven't seen any pop up, so does anybody have any questions before we wrap this up? Now's a chance to get them out there if you do. Okay, hold on, we got one. How about Google Maps? I find it hard to rank as a mobile detailer without a physical address, which is actually a good point. Yeah.
And I don't know whether this person has a PO box or whatever. The easy way around that is to go to your if you're a mobile detailer and you don't want to put your home address, which I would not suggest, you can just go to the UPS store, and it's like $9 or $10 a month for their smallest box, and you get an address. So mine is West Madison Suite 19 E19 or something like that, and so that will give you a physical address. And Google Maps, the only thing they do is they direct, they send you a postcard that you call in with a number, and then you're verified. So that would be my first suggestion, is just go down to UPS, the UPS store, and there might be a mailboxes, et cetera. I don't know if they're still around, but there's tons of places where you can just rent a box on site and get a real street address.
I know lots of mobile detailers that do that. It's very effective. With an office or an address, or an address that you don't want to put your house address, putting it there, I know guys, and they just, instead of PO box, they just put suite number, A14. Google doesn't care, and as long as it ends up into your thing, that's all that matters.
Right, and you can actually fake a PO box the same way. So you can put, you can actually put the physical address of your post office with a box as your suite. So if it's 123 Any Street, box 119, that will actually get to your PO box. You don't necessarily have to put PO box, from my experience. And you'd have to check with your local post office, but in most cases that'll totally work. So if you already have a post office box, you could try that, or talk to your postmaster and see whether that works.
All right, I think that's a good answer for that one. Anybody else before we wrap this up? We got a lot of no thanks and thank yous, so I think that we might.
Cool, and we've got I have a whole series on how to use the internet for your business and Facebook stuff and stuff that might go into a little bit different, that kind of stuff as far as this particular topic. So you can find me, Detailers Helper.
Kevin, do you have a page with your contact information on it?
I don't. It was on that first one.
Yeah, hold on.
If you go to Detailers Helper or search me on Facebook, you'll find me. I'm there all the time.